Drink beer, it's good for you.
Hello and welcome to the video. In this video we'll be looking at the techniques used by a specialist brewery here in Norway for blending Kveik yeast, raw brewing and also souring the end beer. Eik Og Tid is a very up-and-coming specialist beer brewery based in the Oslo area of Norway. I had the great pleasure of spending some time with these guys recently, and they were very open and proud about their methods and keen that this information is shared. Their name, Eik Og Tid, simply means oak and time in English. It is a very fitting title once you understand their process, so let's get you up to speed. This brewery has taken the Norwegian traditional brewing and production process as an influence, but they have adapted this process to create new and fresh beer styles that are actually very different to standard old-style Norwegian farmhouse. The brewery specialises in raw brewed Kveik fermented sour beers. A traditional Norwegian brewer focuses on speed, whereas Eik Og Tid focus on a slower turnaround to create special flavours in their end beers. One part of this adaptation and evolution is the yeast used. As I guess we all know, the traditional Norwegian yeast is known as Kveik, and this yeast is multi-strain. I have various videos on my channel talking about this special yeast. If you are new to this, then I suggest you watch this most recent video that explains the yeast with all the important details. Eik Og Tid started blending Kveik deliberately to push the boundaries of the traditional Norwegian beer flavours into something different with a focus on complexity. Their decision process in deciding which Kveik types to blend was based on the end effects and traits from a large number of different types of Kveik that they tried and tested. They told me that they started off by blending 2 different Kveiks at a time and built up into finding 4 different Kveik strains that offered all different traits that played very well together that brought new dimensions into the end beer. You can only guess how many strains of actual yeast are in this blend, probably over 20. Bootleg Biology, a yeast lab based in the US, isolated one of these strains to create the yeast they call Oslo. This yeast is merely a component of the full mix, of course. Naturally, as this mix has been recultured over time, it has been subject to mutation, particularly because of the amount of strains that it contains, as has the farm Kveik that actually this started with, so in effect it would be impossible to recreate again. So you will understand why a list of strains they used originally is somewhat pointless. And of course every time they add a generation to it, then it will have changed some more again. Eik Og Tid would urge other brewers both at home and commercial to test as many different types of Kveik themselves and develop their own blends for testing. This can be done with farm Kveik and isolates of course, and the possibilities are simply endless. The brewery have developed a set process that they have a great deal of pride in that they are very happy for me to share. Firstly, they pride themselves in just using Norwegian farm malt that is not as heavily modified as normal commercial malt. Many countries have their own versions of this, and because it has much less modification, it simply boasts a better malt flavour. If you want to try a Norwegian variety, then I would strongly suggest you go with the brand Norsk Malt. If you live within the EU, then this Norwegian retailer offers shipping, the full selection offered by the maltster, and a good service. Just click on the link at the top of their homepage entitled EU Customers. At Eik Og Tid, they always mash their malt at temperatures between 67 to 69 degrees Celsius, or approximately 153 to 156 degrees Fahrenheit. They typically mash for 1 hour and 30 minutes. They find extraction is typically complete after about 40 minutes, but feel that this longer period offers greater pasteurization benefits, meaning the end beer will last longer. This is naturally a concern for a commercial brewery that does not boil its beer, but needs its beer to have a good shelf life. They also use a mash-out step that is usually performed at temperatures between 75 to 80 degrees C, which is 167 to 176 degrees Fahrenheit, but sometimes higher. It should also be noted that they will often add water into their tanks that is boiling at the start of mash-out. Despite this, they have never experienced astringency from the grain. They account this to the fact that science backs up that having sugar in the wort with a now lower pH with the grain before higher temperatures are ramped up to, that you will not get any tannin or astringency effects. This also adds to pasteurisation, which the brewery feel is key for their last process, which of course is where they will sour the beer. They do not want the sourness to come from the grain though, they want the sourness to come from their chosen culture that they can add and have complete control over. Whilst the mash is in progress, they prepare and boil a suitable hop tea for the brew for 1 hour. As they are only boiling the tea itself, this can be done within a relatively small pot. After mashing, they sparge and cool before transfer for fermentation. The hop tea is then added at this point, with the liquid being strained into the fermenter. The yeast blend is then added, and it should be noted that they do not have very stable temperatures for fermentation, but this is actually not needed with their custom designed blend of Kveik yeast. They effectively open ferment their beers to promote more ester formation and dissipation of fermentation flavours, using loosely packed aluminium foil on top of their fermentation vessels. In terms of their yeast pitching rate, they found that much experimentation was needed, especially with so many strains involved. They found the bigger the volume brewed, the less Kveik was needed for the ideal fermentation results, where fruity esters can be found. After much testing, they have settled on a pitching rate of 600 grams for 1000 litre brews. They have also found that a pitch and ferment temperature of 28 degrees C for their house strain mix gives the best result. All of their reculturing is done by top cropping to harvest the very healthiest of yeast back. Eik Og Tid are also very quick to point out that they believe their yeast mix also contributes to the souring process due to the bacteria already present. A traditional brewer will actually try their Kveik to keep these bacteria down, but for this brewery they use slurry to keep these bacteria present, in growth and active. They are also very careful to keep levels of hops at a minimum to promote sourness. Using lacto for souring is the brewery's usual method, taking a time period of between 2 to 2.5 months of conditioning. This gives the bacteria in the beers the desired level of time to sour, creating organic acids, lactic acid, and the yeast can also make more esters from these acids and also perhaps more alcohol. The concept being that this not only creates more sourness but also more fruitiness within the end beer. In terms of storage, the brewery have oak barrels and large food-safe plastic containers. They are very keen on the Solara system, where beers are added into containers over a series of equal aging intervals and then blended. Eik Og Tid suggests on a homebrew level that if you can stretch to an oak barrel for conditioning, then this is very nice for the extra flavour. They're not actually as expensive as many people would have you believe either. Corny kegs can also be used and present a useful functionality in that they can be held under pressure with a spunding valve and can be taste tested along their journey of aging till the desired level of sourness is reached. But any airtight solution will also work, like a carboy that is filled to the neck with a suitable airlock. Naturally, if you wanted to create extra oak and spirit effects within this batch, then oak chips from whisky and other spirits are widely available to homebrewers. The brewery prefer livable ambient temperatures for conditioning. Temperatures that are colder will not promote souring, and whilst warmer temperatures will promote faster souring, this is most difficult to control. I will be following this video up in the very near future with a full recipe and method that Eik Og Tid would like me to share with the homebrew community that is used in one of their commercial beers. So I look forward to trying this out in the near future and sharing it with all of you. This now brings this video to a close. If you have any questions, then please let me know via YouTube or Facebook. I do hope that you found this video to be useful, interesting and enjoyable. If appropriate, then please like this video on YouTube, and if you've not done so already, then please subscribe. I regularly post new content. Happy brewing!